bowl here, I have got half a cup of butter that I've creamed together with half a cup of white sugar and half a cup of brown sugar. I love the flavor of brown sugar. The combination of the two is really, really great because the white sugar gives you that kind of crispy topping, that crispy edge, where the brown sugar gives you that flavor of molasses, which I absolutely love. Now, if you do not have brown sugar, or you go into your brown sugar container and it is the texture of a rock, you can actually make your own. You just do about a cup of white sugar to about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, depending on how dark you want your brown sugar, of molasses. So that container of molasses you had from last Christmas comes in handy now. All right, now into there we're gonna go in with some eggs. Now I'm gonna go in with 2 eggs, but anytime I'm adding eggs into a mixture that is fatty, something like this butter mixture, you actually wanna go one at a time. Because similar to making something like a salad dressing, we're mixing something that's really, really watery, the egg, with something that's really, really fatty. So that is gonna help everything kind of emulsify together. That egg yolk is gonna help as well. Looking absolutely beautiful. Also, dream, so excited. Second egg is gonna go in. Now, this is a really basic coffee cake recipe that you can use and flavor however you want. We're gonna do a nice kind of plain vanilla-y cake batter, and then just do that streusel layer with the apple and that cinnamon and that beautiful pecan. But if you wanted to, you could totally add spices into this as well. All right, that's looking absolutely stunning. Now into there, we're gonna go in with that vanilla extract. I like about 1.5 teaspoons. That's half a tablespoon for anybody who wants to know. But if you want to, measure it. I am a free pourer. This and my phone battery are how I live on the edge. My phone battery is always at 10%, and I'm like, what's gonna happen, everybody? Let's do it. All right, give that a mix to combine. Perfect. And then the secret ingredient in any of my coffee cake batters is a little bit of either yogurt or sour cream. So I've got a cup of plain yogurt here. You don't necessarily want to use light yogurt. I'm using regular kind of like Balkan style yogurt, the one that's not too thick. If you just had Greek yogurt though, or skyr, that would work as well. So would sour cream. What this is gonna do is it's gonna add a ton of moisture, a little bit of tang, and it's gonna help the baking powder and baking soda react, giving you a fluffier cake. So give that a good mix to combine. Looking beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love baking. As soon as it gets cold out, I'm like, here we go, let's do this thing. All right, that's looking great. Now we're gonna do the dry ingredients. So into a separate bowl, I'm gonna go in with 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Anytime you're making a cake, all-purpose flour is the way to go. Gives you a nice light creme. So I'm gonna go right on in. You would think cake and pastry flour is what you wanna use, but definitely not on a coffee cake. You want it to be a little bit dense. Perfect. Now into there, I'm gonna go in with 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Perfect. Baking powder is great. Baking powder reacts twice. It reacts once when it hits a little bit of something acidic, something like that yogurt, but it reacts again once it hits the heat of the oven, giving you kind of a double puff. But for a real good kickstart, we're also gonna go in with a teaspoon of baking soda. That does that classic volcano effect when it hits something acidic. So like that yogurt, it's gonna give that initial puff, giving you lots of bubbles, which is gonna be great. A little bit of salt just to counterbalance all that sugar, about half a teaspoon of that. Give that a whisk to combine. And that is looking absolutely beautiful. Okay, now, dry goes into wet. And this is actually a pretty thick batter. It is not super pourable and cakey. It gives you a really nice texture. So just mix it just until combined. I always like to do dry into wet when I'm doing cake. Honestly, I don't really know why, but it is the way Manana did it, so it's the way that I do it, am I right? You know. All right, and as you can see, it's a really kind of stiff batter, but this is gonna give you really nice bubbles. It's gonna give you really nice structure as well, and it almost gives it a bit of like a muffin-y texture, which is a dream. All right, that is looking perfect, just until all of that flour is combined. And I'm just gonna set that aside while I work on that streusel layer. Now, for the streusel layer, this is like the best part of coffee cake. It's the little like crunchers in the middle and on top. So, so tasty. So we're gonna go in with half a cup of brown sugar. The brown sugar, again, gives you that molasses flavor, super, super tasty. Then I'm gonna go in with half a cup of all-purpose flour. Now, a lot of times you'll see a coffee cake batter recipe or a coffee cake recipe, and it will tell you to use like 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, maybe 2 tablespoons of flour. I like a thick layer. So much better. You're not putting icing on it. It's basically the decoration, so we're gonna be good to go. All right, that's gonna go in. Then I'm gonna go in with a full tablespoon of cinnamon. This is where we get all of that fall flavor. If you want, you can add in pumpkin spice if that's your bag, but I absolutely love cinnamon, apples, and pecans together, so that's gonna be perfect. Season that up just to balance it out with a little bit of salt, about half a teaspoon of that. Give that a whisk to combine. Perfect. Now the addition of the flour in there is gonna help this clump up because you want those little nuggets of that beautiful streusel. But before I add in the butter, we're gonna go in with our pecans. So I've got about 3/4 of a cup of chopped pecans here. If you don't like pecans, you could do walnuts, you could do almonds, you could totally leave them out, but they add a really nice crunch in there, which is a total dream. Give that a mix to combine. And then in goes the beautiful butter. Now this uses 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. My mom used to buy this coffee cake blend or mix from the grocery store. And my favorite job was always mixing up the streusel layer because you do it in like a zip top bag and just kind of crumble it around. It was really, really great. This one makes about 8 times that amount. Because again, I know myself well enough to know that this is my favorite part of the cake. You want it to be a little bit crumbly though. If all of that flour mixture doesn't dissolve in, honestly, that's gonna be fine. The moisture from the cake batter is gonna kind of help cook that down and moisten it up. But you're looking for this beautiful texture. Now, in addition to those pecans, to that cinnamon, I did promise you apples, because it is apple picking season. And if you've gone apple picking, you're gonna be like Mary Berg. What do I do with all these apples? This is what you do with one of them. I've chopped up 1 apple, just peeled it, chopped it. You don't have to peel it if you don't want to. Just a good baking apple. Perfect. Add that on in, give that a stir. And that's gonna give you like juicy little pops as well. Bring a little bit more moisture into the mix. All right, now come take a look at this batter. Because we have that beautiful yogurt in there, which is nice and acidic, and we have that baking powder and baking soda, look at the amount of bubbles and fluffiness going on in that batter. That is so much texture, it's gonna be beautiful. So I have got a bundt pan over here that I've just sprayed with a little bit of nonstick cooking spray. So I'm gonna go in with about half of that batter right into the bottom. It's gonna feel like it's not enough. Don't overfill. Because what's gonna happen is as this bakes, the layer of streusel that's in the middle is gonna kind of rise up, get pushed up by all those bubbles. So just do a nice thin layer right along the bottom. Perfect. Scatter on half of that streusel. Oh my gosh, I'm very excited. And again, a thick layer of streusel. Mine in a bundt pan. If you don't have a bundt pan, you can do this in a square or rectangular pan. That will work absolutely perfectly as well. I just like the bundt because you get more of that golden brown edge. That top is so nice. It looks beautiful. What a star. Now I've got the rest of this streusel here and I'm just gonna scatter this over top. We've got those beautiful apples in there. If you are still trying to hold on to the last days of summer, you could swap out the apples for a little bit of peach. That would be really, really nice. Maybe pop a little bit of coconut in there. You're kind of feeling a little bit more, you know, summery, but again, I am a fall girl through and through. Boy, I don't like sweating, so this is my season. All right, so we're just gonna pop that right on top to give you that beautiful layer. Now, I wanna bake this in a 350-degree oven. This takes about 50 minutes to an hour to bake. It's a good long time, but it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. So we're gonna pop that in just on the center rack and let that do its thing. Then, you take it out of the oven, you set it aside to cool pretty much completely. When you're doing a bundt, you really want it to hold that shape. As your cake is cooling, basically what's happening is the starches or the gelatin in the actual flour starts to grab onto each other, building a little structure, making it so that cake won't fall apart. If you've ever had an issue turning your cake out and it falls apart, maybe it was still a little bit too warm, so everything hadn't like grabbed onto its buddy yet. But to serve this cake, typically when you're doing a bundt, you often serve it actually upside down. You want this nice rounded side on the top. I don't want to do that. Look at this streusel. That you want as the star of the show. I'm very excited. So we have to do some acrobats, I'm not gonna lie. Acrobatics, get your plate, turn it over. This is the stunt plate. We're not actually serving on this plate. We're gonna give it a confident flip. 3, 2, 1. Pretty good. You just have to be confident. Then you do one of these for a little bit of good measure, just to make sure it came out. There we go. Beautiful. Now again, if you wanted to, or you were serving a cake that didn't have that streusel layer on the other side, you would just serve it like this, a little bit of glaze on there, absolutely beautiful. But we're just gonna make things extra difficult on me on live TV. We're gonna do one of these, pop the cake pedestal on top, and then another, very confident, very quick, 3, 2, 1, flip. Okay. Beautiful. Listen, if you wanted to, you could easily dust this with a little bit of icing sugar or some icing sugar mixed with some cinnamon. You could do a little cream cheese glaze on there. But to me, the thing that really keeps this as a coffee cake is just having it as is. You just give it a little bit of a slice through that beautiful mixture. all those pecans. This is like celebration of fall, 100%. Look at the layer. Can you see that? Oh my gosh. That's absolutely stunning. Now, since we're celebrating today, I figure I'm gonna get a little fork here. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have a seat. I've never done this before. I also didn't tell anybody I was gonna do this, so this is always fun. But to be honest, honestly, I love the fall. Baking and sharing good fall baked goods is one of my favorite things to do. So I hope you make this. My friend Charlotte's dad, Barry, hope you enjoy it, because I know you were watching specifically for this carrot cake. Enjoy, we gotta take a break. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.